Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock, and John Ramdeen will be by in a few minutes to chat about the news, welterweight title plans, and lots more. In the headlines today, Jacob Stitch Duran has a new gig in mixed martial arts, Wanderlei Silva comes after the UFC once more, and Dillashaw comments on the rift between his coach and training partners. Dillashaw is getting set to defend his bantamweight title on Saturday night against former champion Hendricks. But during fight week, it's been his coach, Duane Ludwig, and members of Team Alpha Male, including Lance Palmer and Cody Garbrandt, who have been going back and forth. Ludwig, who is no longer a part of Team Alpha Male, stated on SiriusXM Fight Club that Dillashaw was the only member who wanted to be champion and upset members of Team Alpha Male. Dillashaw spoke to Ariel Helwani and believes the story has been blown out of proportion and isn't a distraction during fight week. Joe Lauzon will meet Takanori Gomi on Saturday night in a lightweight bout as Lauzon looks to bounce back from a loss to Ally Quinta from earlier this year. Lauzon was a guest on the MMA Report here at the Fight Network and spoke about the situation involving Jacob Stitch Duran and the reaction to the UFC's decision to cut ties with the popular cutman.
It's definitely a big deal, but it sounds like Stitch wasn't happy with, the direction everything was going, and he didn't really want to be with the UFC anymore. So he went on a limb, knowing he was probably going to have that limb cut out. And he was trying to do it to help out the other cut man and help out those guys. So I think that he absolutely knew the direction that was going by, speaking out against, Reebok and expressing his interest. And I think that a lot of people, it's crazy, the accusations people making, they're blaming Reebok for the fact that Stitch got fired, and they're thinking that, they think that Reebok contacted the UFC, this guy talked badly about us, we want him fired. And it doesn't work like that. They don't care. They really don't care. So it's a little bit crazy to me, and people are really up in arms about it. But I think it's just one of those things that's going to happen. People aren't going to always be happy about every single decision that's made. It's going to be good for some guys, it's going to be worse for others, and and people are going to be upset. And but I think overall you got to look at what's best for everyone in the big picture.
And the World Series of Fighting organization has confirmed to the Fight Network that Jacob Stitch Duran will be working their August 1st show next weekend. Wanderlei Silva has come out to the defense of Jacob Stitch Duran and says that he wants to be released by the UFC just as they have released Duran. Silva says he will never fight for them again, and then went on to write that the UFC has fixed fights in the past and that Silva has proof and hasn't dropped that bomb yet. The place to be on Saturday night is here on Fight Network at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and John Ramdeen will get you set for the main card from the United Center in Chicago with 4 fights on the main card, including Dillashaw and Hendricks in a rematch for the bantamweight title and a women's bantamweight contest involving Jessica Ai and Miesha Tate. Here with John Ramdeen to chat about all of today's news. We're going into Saturday night. The UFC is back on Fox with a card from Chicago. Dillashaw taking on Hendricks. And Jeremy Botter was the one who first reported the news about a pair of welterweight fights, including the next championship fight, which looks to be Robbie Lawler and, surprisingly to some, Carlos Condit.
Yeah, outstanding. This is a bang-up job. If the UFC can get this done, Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit. Everybody's saying, Johnny Hendricks deserves the next crack at the title. Tyron Woodley beat Carlos Condit, blah, 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 blah. Stylistically, a matchup between Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. Amazing matchup. You just think about their skills, and a lot of people will say, look back at that Nick Diaz fight because there was all the hype. Carlos Condit says he was going to move forward. Nick Diaz says he was going to move forward. We knew that Nick Diaz, no matter what, was going to move forward, and the fight didn't play out, I think, the way that fans anticipated it would play out in our minds. Hopefully that is not the case with this fight with Carlos Condit, and I don't think it can be because Robbie Lawler is going to hunt you down and he is going to beat you up. We saw it in that fight with Rory McDonald, and the only way Carlos Condit can avoid that is by inflicting damage himself. From a fan standpoint, this is the fight that I have to see, and it's a fresh matchup. So I think
that's the thinking here because everyone was assuming it would be Johnny Hendricks that would get the winner of that McDonald-Lawler fight. Instead, it looks he's going to be drawing Tyron Woodley, which is an interesting fight in and of itself. I mean, both guys, I think, Woodley and Hendricks, feeling that they've been kind of overlooked at this point for that next championship fight. Woodley has been campaigning, not just for a Hendricks fight, but to get a higher level of an opponent. For Johnny Hendricks, though, I mean, he was pretty much banking on this title fight, but this in this game in 2015, anything that you are promised is subject to change. And in this case, a bit of a wild card with Carlos Condit getting one win since coming back from the loss to Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he gets the title fight. He's certainly going to face scrutiny for receiving,
of course,
leapfrogging both, I would say.
Yeah, and if I'm, like you said, Johnny Hendricks and Woodley, both guys
own wins over Carlos Condit.
Over Carlos Condit. So I understand from that standpoint. Selfishly, though, when you think about the fight and how it's going to play out, I think everybody's going to benefit. I think the people tune into the pay-per-view, they're going to get the entertainment, because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You know, people tune into sports for entertainment, and that's what Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler are going to provide. However, Tyron Woodley, a teammate of Robbie Lawler, is at American Top Team. I know he spent time other places. He said he didn't really want to fight Robbie Lawler. However, consolation prize, you're stuck fighting Johnny Hendricks, and it's not for the title. I can see why Woodley wouldn't be happy about that.
All right, and we will hedge our bets. The UFC has not officially announced either of these welterweight fights, but
Make it happen.
That is the report that is out there. All right, let's shift gears to Saturday night in Chicago. We've talked a lot about TJ Dillashaw and Hendon Barao, but Miesha Tate and Jess Guy, it's a very interesting fight from the perspective that Miesha Tate gets the win here. That is 4 consecutive wins, and you can make the argument, I don't think there's any other argument, that she's next in line for a title fight, even if it's a third one with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, it's a situation like Uriah Faber was in a number of years ago, or Joseph Benavidez finds himself in right now, where he is clearly, and she is clearly, the number 2 fighter in the division. And unfortunately for Miesha Tate, I don't know if it makes sense for her. I think she just has to focus on going out, getting a victory, trying to look impressive, and try to capture the performance bonus. I don't know if people are interested in seeing another fight with her and Ronda Rousey.
I think they will be.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's across the cage from Ronda. Way and I were having this argument coming back from Las Vegas. I personally don't think it matters who's across the cage from Ronda. Sure, there'll be bigger buy rates for certain athletes, but Ronda is the star. It's like Conor McGregor. People just want to tune in. It's same with Brock Lesnar. It's irrelevant who is standing across the cage. They transcend the sport, and people gravitate to superstars. And Ronda's a star, Conor McGregor's a star, and Brock Lesnar was a star.
Joe Lozon, he's going to be taking on Takanori Gomi. That's going to open up the main card. For Takanori Gomi, I mean, this is going to be kind of, I think from a stylistic perspective, this could be an extremely entertaining fight. With Takanori Gomi, though, I think it's probably a short list of fights he has remaining.
Yeah, what I don't understand is, and maybe this is one of those fights that is going to deliver. Joe Lozon always seems to be in exciting fights. Takanori Gomi just has not evolved to the new era of mixed martial arts. Doesn't mean that he can't be exciting. We know that the Fireball Kid always delivers. They're trying to get the knockout every time he steps inside of the ring or cage. But I think it's kind of a must-win situation for him, or he could find himself fighting for deep down the road. But I'm very surprised. The UFC has a show coming up in Japan, and that Gomi wasn't a part of the show. It has Barnett and Roy Nelson.
Maybe I'll have a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, maybe if you can get the job done quickly.
It's a very strong card coming up on Saturday from Chicago, and we are going to have a pre-fight show on Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Me and this guy, we will get you all set for all of the fights coming from Chicago. In Canada, you can watch them on CTV2, kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got more Fight News Now Extra next.